Hello, it's fine coincidence, but from the very start of the war, I haven't reviewed any models by KZ or CCA. But of course, company didn't stand still and they released a lot of models, so I decided to return back to their products because it's always interesting to know what you'll get. Like, you remember that quote from Forrest Gump about the box of chocolates. So KZ is also a box of chocolates. And I decided to start with their KZ ZES, yet another iteration of their experiments with drivers that they called electrostatic, but it's actually closer to electret. And it's a hybrid with 12mm dynamic driver and smaller electret driver. They located coaxial, and that's pretty much we need to know before the review. Price is about $40, which is also kind of affordable. You can spend this money just for the sake of experiment. And let's have a closer look. I don't know why this time they decided to make box purely black and white. You can see that there are two versions, gun black and silver, and I've got version with microphone. From the specifications, 32 ohms of impedance and 113 decibels of sensitivity. More or less sensitive, but not oversensitive to pick the background noise too much. So, as usual, it opens as matchbox. We remove this plastic cover from top, and here we're getting earpieces themselves, stock cable, and two extra pair of tips. Like few years ago, this set of accessories was okay for this price. But nowadays, even for $40, I think accessory set should be a bit wider with at least some case or at least more tips, like 5 pair of tips or some kind of generosity. In terms of design, model is really great. That factory that makes models for KZ, CCA and many others invent new sophisticated shells. So as you can see, it's made of metal, level of craftsmanship is pretty good, and they added some kind of transparent windows here and here. Interesting shape, interesting design, fancy look. Said that we can't see the internals really well. You can see something through this window, but not too much. I liked the previous iterations with the transparent inner part of shell, but metal of course is more reliable. They have pretty long spouts with lip for holding the tips and protective grill, so they're getting pretty deep into the ears, providing slightly above average sound isolation. Wearing comfort is really nice, at least for me. In my ears they hold really well, doesn't irritate with sharp edges, so everything's smooth and well refined. Stock cable as usual made with recessed pins, so-called QDC connector, and it's a really good option for the affordable earphones because it provides nice look, good fit, and at the same time it's pretty reliable. There are ear hooks without memory wire, of course, but they reduce background noise really well. Stock cable is like slightly softer than average, but not super soft. Looks pretty audiophilic for this price, so you can see nice braiding and attractive silver color. There is a talk control with microphone. Microphone quality is just so-so. If you need to quickly answer some short call, when you move this closer to your mouth, it will be okay option, but not more than that. And after the traditional 4KZ splitter, cable goes down to the also traditional for KZ angled 3.5mm connector. So in general, in terms of accessory set and presentation, it's typical KZ, and in terms of design, it's pretty good. And of course about the sound, I gave them about 48 hours of burn-in, but there were no big changes in sound, so instead of trying to burn them in, better spend some time finding the proper tips that will provide you the best fit and isolation. In terms of tuning up to the treble area, it's basically very typical KZ tuning. They found some good dynamic drivers and they reused them, getting nice resolution, and at the same time they vary low frequencies tuning from like big bass up to over big bass, oversized that shadows mids and everything. Luckily it's not that case. So in terms of quantities, this model has plenty of low frequencies and a noticeable accent that gives nice sense of weight, but at the same time, thanks to the good performing dynamic driver, it has normal resolution, not of course comparable with something more expensive, but still for this price segment pretty good resolution, some hints of overtones and more or less balanced signature and nice control, it stays in place. Depth is good, maybe not maximum, but deeper layers of bass is present, but luckily main accent made on the mid bass, so it sounds more organic compared to models that are heavy on the low bass. KZ sometimes try to make the big accent on the lowest layers of bass, and usually in this case this model sounds too fatiguing. It's not that case, luckily. And as an example for the low frequencies, I've got Pain of Salvation acoustic album, track named Linoleum. It's Pain of Salvation Classics, but in unplugged version. And they have a really good low frequencies here, properly recorded and pretty powerful. Of course, these earphones a bit explode them in terms of size, but at the same time bass sounds really tasty, especially if you like when it's bigger than it should be. It's pretty pleasant experience. For the mid frequencies also responsible the same dynamic driver, at least for the middle and low part of mids. And because of that it's like a typical dynamic driver, not focused on the micro contrast. Resolution is okay, but not trying to be superb, but you won't be lacking significant details. At the same time they are pretty forgiving for the quality of records, because they don't trying to go into the micro contrast. Pretty decent weight distribution and slight amount of emotions highlighting. Imagery stage is slightly above average both in width and in depth, not the huge, but pretty accurate. Like, don't expect holographic 3D positioning, but more or less good in building that space and in representing instruments and all that stuff. So for this price tier it's also pretty decent. Comparing to more expensive models, well, not that great, but still acceptable. And as an example, it's Reckless Love, track named Monster, and I like this band. It's like hard rock, but really creative, really fun, with a lot of humor in lyrics and pretty groovy melodies that makes you shaking your head. And here this track lacking a bit of aggression with these earphones, but still sounds pretty decent with normal resolution, without attempts to boost something or just to mask. So pretty balanced one, unless you of course want to focus on the micro contrast. In this case you'll need to get something with balanced armatures on the mid frequencies, they will give you more focus. There is a slight accent in the upper mids area, but actually it's not that big compared to the traditional tuning. And in general, you know, it's a V-shaped model, but actually upper frequencies not raised as much as lows in order to compensate it, and that actually makes this model stand out from vast majority of other earphones, both by KZ and other companies. And actually treble, of course, it's that area where we expect something different, and indeed this driver of course can be compared with real electret drivers or even electrostatic with external transformer, but still you getting that hint of different treble. Usually in this segment you get either dynamic driver treble with slightly slower attacks and decays, or balanced armatures with that sense of airness due to fast attacks and decays, with all that sense of airy but a bit lightweight treble. But here you're getting pretty balanced treble with nice overtone saturation. Of course, no traces of layering, but it's budget segment, so no sense to expect it here. And at the same time, they have really good attacks and decays that gives you that sense of definition of treble. And thanks to KZ, they not overdone treble this time, at least to my ears. So treble sounds accented, but more or less balanced with low frequencies that give you that nice sense of energy in the treble area, but not overdone. And as an example, here we'll use soundtrack to the famous HBO miniseries Chernobyl, and due to my respect to this composer, I won't try to read her surname. She's masterful composer, but I have no idea how this letter should be read. So anyway, Turbine Hall, it's like ambient track with lot of sounds that recorded pretty well, goes to the treble area, and thanks to these earphones, actually to their unusual driver, it gives you interesting sense of space with all that high frequency sounds. Of course, it's not comparable once again with more expensive models, but in this segment it's a pretty unusual experience. Speaking about pairings, they require at least some digital tonal converter. Of course, you can use them with regular smartphone, but in this case, you'll lose that pleasant treble that they represent. You'll get nice bass, pretty balanced mids, but treble became simplified. So something like $50–60 digital tonal converter will be a plus for them. And this time I won't be doing any comparisons because this model is just totally different comparing to other earphones in this segment. Because of the driver, it gives unusual treble experience. So others will be either dynamic or balanced armatures. So to summarize, if you're looking to try something interesting, ZES is a pretty nice option. Not expensive, but at the same time gives you a bit of fresh experience with the sound. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and of course have a nice day.